What's up, guys? Welcome to the first Sofa Sports YouTube video. I'm Tyler Jewell, joined as always with Reed Dank. Reed, how are you doing?
Great to be, man. It's going to be an awesome tournament this year. Can't wait to get started, and we're going to check out our brackets and come to a consensus here on what we think is going to keep moving on.
Yeah, in today's video, me and Reed are just going to go through March Madness bracket, see what we think is going to happen, try to get some right picks. I say let's just get right into it. First one, Alabama AMCC/SMO. I'll put it out there right now. I haven't looked at any brackets. I don't follow college hoops. Reed does, so Reed will be guiding us here.
Yeah, the winner of AMCC or SMO is going to have a real challenge taking on number one seeded Alabama. I think they're an incredibly unmovable force. I think that they're going to at least reach the Elite Eight. And from there, I'm a little unsure of how they're going to at least progress. But it's such a strong core of young players, and specifically, I think that they have a lot of strength at the guard position. I think they have a bunch of strong guards, and their forward presence is strong. They collect a lot of rebounds. They are absolutely wired when it comes to getting in close and getting it done in the paint. But they can also drill it from three. So they're a real threat, and they're number one seeded for a reason. I think I have Alabama advancing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree on that. When I say we go Bama, I think that that's kind of we'll pick some underdogs here, but I think that that's the call though, for sure. Maryland, West Virginia.
Another really close, understandably so, 8 and 9 seeded matchup. But if you kind of look at the statistics in general, just when comparing these two teams, I think West Virginia has a little bit more of an advantage. I think points per game, they lead 69th in the country to Maryland's 201st. If you look at 3-point percentage, they lead tied for 140th in the country, where Maryland is 240. And then if we look at the true shooting percentage for both teams, it's not far apart, but they're at least has a little bit of a lead and niche for West Virginia. So they are 9 seeded West Virginia, but I honestly have West Virginia taking this one.
See, I gotta be biased here and roll with Maryland. I think that you could have guessed that. I I would like to see Maryland take this one. I would pick Maryland. You would pick West Virginia. I mean, maybe we should rock, paper, scissors or something.
Well, unfortunately, Tyler, there's one way to one up you on that, and West Virginia actually has a -2 in the spread. So they are two under, and I think that if we're going by betting terms, West Virginia, believe it or not, has the upper hand and advantage. But yes, we can rock paper scissors for sure.
So then it's kind of like we're picking the underdog with Maryland then.
You are. I don't know about. I'm sticking with the over, man. I like the fact that West Virginia's got good numbers, and even though they're lower seeded, they honestly should be the higher seed. Let's just kind of tell it like it is. But yeah, I'm calling West Virginia.
All right, we'll go West Virginia. I trust you. I trust you. Next up, San Diego State and Charleston.
All right, this one's a little bit closer than I think people make it out to be. But then again, I look at the stats and different conferences come into play. So you really kind of have an apples to oranges comparison of what we're really looking at and digesting. 14th in the country is Charleston at points per game. 51st in the country at pace to San Diego State's 288. But San Diego State has the advantage in field goal percentage, and they drill a ton more 3-pointers than College of Charleston does. The one thing the College of Charleston has in their favor is how good in the country they are at offensive rebounding. They are tied for first in the country at offensive rebounding. Now, we have a little bit of conference bias, and Charleston does open up as a 5.5 underdog. But I really see San Diego State having to challenge themselves to get through a win. But I still personally believe that San Diego State will beat Charleston.
Yeah, at some point we're gonna have to go pick an underdog. I like Charleston. I would pick Charleston just if I was just rolling them off, but I think San Diego is probably the right call. We're looking to go perfect here, So I
If
think
you're,
that's a good call for now.
I agree. If you're a stat nerd, though, everything is telling you to take College of Charleston. The numbers are all there. I can
Yeah.
understand both, but I think that San Diego State barely need no, not just this one out.
Yep. I like that. I like that. Furman, Virginia.
Yeah, another one of those games that is really close in terms of its style. It's another 5.5 point spread. It's a little different though. We're dealing with a four seed and a 13 seed as opposed to a 5 and a 12. So Virginia looks even more of a favorite than Furman does, but they really don't have a lot of stylistic differences. I think that people are really getting the sense of this Furman Virginia matchup that Furman has an upset chance, and they really do. The difference is that College of Charleston had a much easier schedule than Furman did. Furman had a pretty challenging schedule with a couple of contenders that were thrown in the mix. And like I said, while it's a 13-4 matchup, I really, really, really like Furman in this matchup. Um, so much to the point where I think I'm calling my first upset. I think Furman upsets Virginia.
I don't hate it. Small school upsets Virginia. I think there's potential. I mean, we'll go for it. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So we'll send it. First upset alert. Virginia out in the first round.
Could be close. Could be close.
Next up, how do you say that? Creighton, NC
Creighton
State.
and NC State. All right, so when we talk about Creighton and NC State, it's a little bit different. This is a 5 point spread in favor of Creighton, but unfortunately, just based off of their challenging schedule this year, NC State still in a good spot and a good position, ranked at 11th in this bracketing seed in the South. It's going to be a tough task against a Creighton team that's faced a lot of good opponents. They just have they have a decent hard schedule and they fought through some good games and still have had a couple losses where I think they would rather have turned their head. But I still really feel Creighton in this one. Just a lot of the numbers tell me that Creighton is a good choice. And I think it's hard to mess up a 5 point favorite spread. Although I did just call a 5.5 spread being an upset, but I'm going to go with Creighton personally.
Yeah, I feel Creighton too. I'd like to go in state, pick the North Carolina team, but I'm not an NC State fan, so I'm down to pick against them. Baylor, UCSB.
So this is a very unique matchup. We've seen crazier spreads go down for sure. It's a 10.5 to 10.5 both ways at Santa Barbara being underdog. A lot goes into saying that Baylor really has this lockdown, but the field goal percentage of UC Santa Barbara tells me just how really good they are. Their field goal percentage being the seventh in the country, but people will like to argue that the schedule has been a little bit lenient for UCSB, and they've had some opponents where they really feel as though it's been compact and they kind of made it in off of just a little bit of their merit, and that's understandable with their tournament bracket busting in the past. But I do think they're going to get really close to Baylor in the end. I think it's honestly going to be probably in the range of maybe a 6 point game in that zone, and it'd be a lot closer than people think. But I still have Baylor, and I don't think it's by a very, very, very far margin.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've filled out one or two brackets ever before. And, I think it's easy to pick for a rookie like me. I think it's easy to pick the favorite. So I don't hate the play. We're definitely going to need an upset alert. I think that's going to be coming later though, looking at this. Next up though, Missouri, Utah State.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of, if not the biggest of the tournament, one of the biggest nail biter games going to come down to the wire. These teams look very similar, very close though. The numerics aren't far off. It's understandable why they're a 1.5 spread in favor of Mizzou. I feel like Utah State has a legitimate chance at winning, and honestly, despite what I think most stats favor Mizzou, I really like Utah State upsetting. I really like it to the point where I'm going to call it.
I don't think that's bad. 7-10, slim margin for error. We'll go Utah State. Arizona, Princeton.
Yeah, I think with this one, there's just less of an opportunity or a gate to get open for an upset. At least in terms of stats, I mean, everything is leaning Arizona's way. I think that we have Arizona fourth in the country at point per game, 13th in the country at pace, third in the country at field goal percentage. I could keep going down the list of
Yeah,
merits of things that Arizona has dealt with this year. I think we pretty much have consensusly understood.
locked and loaded. I'm down. I think Arizona takes it, and then interesting matchup 2-10 in the second round. But we'll keep going here. Houston, North Kentucky.
Yeah, so as we transition over to the Midwest, looking at Houston and Kentucky, this we've said before, and with the exception of the craziness 1-16s that will occasionally happen, I think Houston, while they look like they have most of the stats, it's going to be a lot closer than it tells. But as we look at the spread, it's still plus 19 and a half for Kentucky, and obviously Houston hits at 19.5. I would
Yeah.
love to say and call an incredible 1-16 buster. I think that we may find some things in this to be flawed for sure, but I think we're going to have to call Houston at one.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a smart choice. Iowa, Auburn, 8 and 9. This will be a good matchup.
Another really close 1.5 spread, understandably so. But the one thing I will say is that Iowa has a lot in their favor. They have a lot of stats in their favor, and everything I think compounds when you kind of add everything up together. Um, Auburn, to their credit, has played a tough SEC schedule, and I can't really fault them for how their numbers don't look as appealing, quote unquote, when you compare that to that of Iowa's. Um, the one thing I really think that they'll have to play in their favor is, again, it's another team that steals the ball a lot more. And that's 49th in the country compared to 160th in the country. So there's a big gap in how many times there are steals involved for Auburn. And the defensive rating, let's be frank, looks a lot better than that of Iowa's. It's literally 75th in the country to 275th in favor of Auburn. I think it's gonna, in the end, though, be Iowa.
Yeah, close one here. I think it could be a good game. I'm down for Iowa. Take the top seed, the higher seed.
You know what? I think you got to take the higher seed, and crazier than that, Iowa opens as an underdog in some spreads. I've even seen, just looking at, I think of the Barstool Sportsbook has Iowa as the underdog going in against Auburn. But all the stats for me that I see and take interest in, and the seeding at 8 seems like Iowa is not a terrible pick.
Gotcha. Well, I think it's a good call. I mean, you can't go wrong with picking the favorite in the rankings at least. The U and Drake.
You and Drake, again, another close game than most people make it out to be. This is a 5 seeding, it's 12, but it really kind of feels like a closer, more compact. If you're going to say 6-11, or honestly, in some regards, I'd even call this as far as a 7 seed playing against another lower seed team. So, with that in mind, I do think that the U has a lot in their favor. I do think their points per game, pace, and field goal percentage are solid, and their offensive rankings are great. But Drake's defensive ranking is tied with 17th in the country. And while some people are going to say that Drake hasn't had a perfect schedule, I think it's just going to be super close in the end. Again, I think it's going to be another really tight, compact game. But I think in the end, Miami pulls this off. But those 4 or 5 stats I've mentioned, Pythagorean wins, defensive rating, turnovers, rebounds, that's just all there on the score. I really, really, really like Miami in this, but I could see Drake. I could see Drake.
For me, it's just obviously looking at the names, seeing what I like, just basing it off of random stuff. And I see Drake and it makes me want to pick it. But Miami, I mean, I feel like you can't go wrong with, at least for the first round. I feel like Miami's going to take that. I think that that's a good pick there, though. Indiana, Kent State.
Yeah, Kent State coming off of a really good performance, second in the MAC conference, something that I don't think many people saw coming, and them getting in the tournament was obviously a super huge win on their mark. So good on them for getting this far. Um, a lot, a lot tells me that this is a really sloppy looking spread for both teams. If you are an underdog liker, Kent State, this could be a potential gold mine here at +4, and you're also comparing a MAC team to a Big Ten team. There's obviously some discretion that has to be made, but I still think in the end, barely, barely. I'm obviously going to call it within 3 points that Indiana knocks off Kent State.
Yeah, I really don't hate the Kent State pick here. For some reason, I just kind of feel it. Indiana is definitely the safe call, but I feel like there could be an upset here. Is that what you're locking in, Indiana?
I'm going to lock in Indiana, but at the threat of Kent State potentially breaking people's brackets already day one. I mean, I think that just
Yeah,
there's a real possibility of this matchup.
yeah. All right, next up, Iowa State. MSST Pitt? Is that Pitt or is that something different?
No, it's Pitt. Iowa State will play the winner of the last four in Mississippi State Pitt. If I'm looking to myself, I think Mississippi State would win out. And I think eventually that Iowa State would come out the victor.
Yeah, I feel like with this pick, since we don't know who's playing, especially I think Iowa's just kind of a safe call, and I don't hate that for the first round at least, you know. Um, if that's what you're feeling, I'm feeling that too. So I say we ride it.
You're right, but there are some legitimate things that I think could go into um, that Mississippi State because they're just so strong defensively, and they had to play in a rather challenging SEC conference. I also think there's a lot of merit to what Iowa State's done this year, and that's why they're placed at six. It'll be close, but I really think if Mississippi State goes and plays Iowa State, it's going to be a close one. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Mississippi State came out the victor.
Are you calling if Mississippi wins and they get to play Iowa? Are you do you want to call it
I
now?
honestly may change that narrative if Mississippi
Okay,
State
okay.
wins because they're such a strong defensive team.
That's okay because it's a little hypothetical right now because we're not 100% sure who's playing. So, you know, if you that's what you're feeling now, if Miss
That's what I'm feeling now. That's what I'm feeling now.
I'll stop talking. Next up, Xavier Kennesaw. How do you say that?
Kennesaw State.
Kennesaw. I was right. That one looked a little
You're
more complicated. I've never heard of that one before.
good. Yeah, this Xavier Kennesaw State matchup favors Xavier heavily, understandably so. Um, if we're going to look to numbers, which I've been going off of quite a bit, the only real big thing that Kennesaw State has over Xavier is the steal rating and their defensive rating. Their defensive rating is good; it's 63rd in the country. But then again, you could argue conference. A lot of things could weigh into this, but also look at Xavier. They lead the country in assists. They are a pass heavy team. They like to identify as that. And while their field free throw percentage isn't perfect, that's one thing to their detriment if they go to the line. They are still a great field goal percentage, sixth in the country. They still roll with pace, 31st in the country. Points per game, 11th in the country, tied for 11th. They are still a dominant force. And I think Xavier really staying would be nice.
Where is Kennesaw State
Kennesaw State is in Georgia.
in Georgia? Well, I mean, I click Xavier like basically right at the beginning. A school that I've heard of before, a school that I haven't heard of before, and a school that you liked. You know, I think that's an obvious one for us there. No debate on that one. Texas A&M, Penn State, potential for a good matchup.
Yeah, this is a great matchup. Penn State is really coming to form in their last, I'd say their last 3, 4 games, coming up just short to Purdue in the Big Ten championship final. I really like Penn State as the underdog. 2.5 spread for a 10-7 seed. I honestly, I'm going to take Penn State.
That's good because I was leaning towards Penn State. I don't know why I was feeling it. If you look straight across to the left, we went number 10, Utah State. Now we're going 10, Penn State. Maybe that's a little, you know, I think that's a little key.
Maybe the Tens have some stock, man.
Yeah, something. Finally for this side here, Texas, Colgate. Is that the toothpaste?
No, it's actually the university, and they are not having a terrible season themselves. Their field goal percentage is second in the country. Their 3-point field goal percentage is first in the country. Their assists are third in the country. True shooting percentage fifth in the country. Offensive rating 11th in the country. The
That's
one
tempting.
difference here against Texas, now the one thing that's leaning in their favor, but kind of still holds merit to Texas is that they played in an SEC conference and Colgate does not play in a strong enough conference.
Yep.
Colgate's coming out of the Patriot League, and while they were the leaders and first in the Patriot League, everyone likes to draw this comparison of all conferences. Obviously, all the difference. That hasn't been the case. I'm being anecdotal with my picks and saying that some of these bigger conferences are going to lead to complete outright wins, and that might not be the case at all. Colgate for some people has really have like going their way. A lot of them lie in their favor, and you know what? I'm calling Colgate.
It's hard to pick against Texas, especially at number 2, but I don't hate it. I think it's a good, just a real underdog pick, and I love it. I was hoping I wasn't expecting you to go that direction. I was feeling that direction. I was hoping you were going to go that direction, and you did. We're just good
Played the
like
mind
that.
games. I played them right. I played them right. Mind games.
In the East, to kick it off, Purdue, winner of TXSO, FDU.
Yeah, so I don't even think we really have to do much deliberating on how good of a season Purdue has had. I still like Purdue. I still think this is a team that's a juggernaut that's built for the Final Four. Yeah, I'm calling Purdue.
Yeah, I think Purdue's going to take this one. These two teams are going to battle it out to make it into the tournament, and then Purdue's going to take care of business. So I agree. We're going Purdue. Memphis FAU.
Close game. Looks like the numbers favor a little bit more Memphis's way, but that really does not mean that it leaves Florida Atlantic out of this at all. I think Florida Atlantic has had a dream season compared to some they've had in the past. This the first team in the CUSA. They've looked really, really strong. A 3 point field goal percentage that's well in the advantage of FAU. 3 point field goal that's in the advantage of FAU. Rebounds are in the advantage of FAU. But then again, we could look to a lot of the Memphis stats that would point and say, well, Memphis has had a tough time in the AAC, and it's understandable. Still second in the AAC and still not as proficient. They're second to Houston and nearly took out Houston. I'm sorry, they did take out Houston. What am I saying? They did take out Houston. They were the one team to upset Houston. I like this role that Memphis is on, and I'm going to take Memphis.
The better seed. I'm down for that. FAU, never heard of them, so I'm down for that. Next up, a phenomenal matchup. Duke, Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts making that run not too long ago, and now they get to play Duke.
They're a rowdy group this year too. I don't think they're really moving far from what they had against Ohio State in their run um, back during the COVID March Madness season, and first in the Summit League again, totally destroying intercompetition North Dakota State in their last game, which was March 7th. I think this team looks really really capable, and they've gone out and beat a lot of teams I really didn't find that they would wind up beating. Honestly, this might be an even more lethal Oral Roberts team than we saw against Ohio State. I am not saying by any metric that Duke is looking to get blown out in their fashion. They've had a tough ACC conference to contend with, and coming out of that conference third looks a little rough to them. And maybe they want to turn the momentum gears on quick against Oral Roberts. But Oral Roberts just plays so fast, and I don't know how Duke can keep up with the fast teams that while they're not very great defensively, Oral Roberts, Duke just goes very slow, and that could be their detriment. And so this is a claim. You're marking this, and it's gonna fall flat on my face. I am sure I'm going on freezing cold takes with some of these takes. Oral Roberts beats Duke.
I had the mouse over there. I was ready to send Oral Roberts. I was hoping you were ready to as well. We'll send it. Tennessee, Louisiana.
Tennessee and Louisiana, a pretty interesting matchup. I think everyone is looking for Tennessee to be the favorite in this, and I can completely understand that.
I feel Tennessee too. I like Tennessee better than Louisiana. That's my reasoning. So Tennessee it is. Next up, Kentucky, Providence.
Interesting for a 16 and 11 seed at them sitting at a +4. I think Kentucky takes it.
I agree. I think Kentucky goes and takes care of business, but could be a close one.
To Montana State, Kansas State, great matchup, and these two are really really bred for each other. I really like the trendy hot team. I think we all kind of do. I'm calling another upset. Montana State 14 seed to play Kentucky at 6.
We know there's going to be some upsets, so we got to pick some. It's going to happen. And I don't hate it. This could be a really good one. 3 and 14, 14th seed upsets number 3. I don't hate it. Here you go. The Michigan boy, Michigan State, USC.
Takes everything in my power to be unbiased, but everything about this just makes me want USC as a 10 seed to take them down. I can't unfortunately do that though. I think the numbers are well in favor in some aspects like turnover, 3 point field goal percentage to Michigan State. although it's really close. It's honestly it's a matter of literally like two in the spread. These guys are really close to each other in play level. But I'll call Michigan State.
So we're riding Michigan. Are you sure? This
I think
is
we're calling Michigan State on this one.
this is
I
a
think
tough
so.
one.
I think it's very close. I'm just gonna take the what looks like the quote better team.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. We did just pick an upset, so we want to go perfect. So I don't hate it. Marquette, Vermont.
I think this one feels a little bit less like a 2 seed, 15 seed. But then again, I've looked at just how dominant Marquette have been in their last couple games in a really tight Big East conference. They dominated the Big East, and they're in a 9-game winning streak. Everything is really looking Marquette's way. I don't want to diminish anything that Vermont's done this season, being first in the American East. I'm sorry, the American East, and really winning. They've won their last 15 in the America East. I think we're honestly just taking this win off of just how much Marquette's been dominant in their conference compared to what Vermont's been doing in the America East, going 23-10 and being first in a very compact, tight division that has some tough opponents. But I still like Marquette.
I agree. I think this is a lock here.
But you cannot take anything away from what Vermont has done their season. They've been strong. They've been dominant.
On to the West, Kansas and Howard.
Yeah, if we're looking out west, Kansas and Howard is a really really big spread. If you are looking to throw some money down, throw $5 on Howard, and if they hit on Kansas, that's going to be a big hit. That's a big return. A lot of it just really doesn't feel like it's going Howard's way. I'm going to call Kansas.
I think Kansas is definitely the call here. I think that might be back-to-back locks for us right there, and we'll take all these we can get. Arkansas and Illinois.
Yeah, I think you got to call whoop pig for Arkansas. I think they're a strong team. I think they played in a very difficult conference, but but
But
Illinois, six in the Big Ten, but they've really turned a little bit of what they had going on around. They've lost their last two. I understand that, and there are some games and some people that are saying that Illinois is a potential bracket breaker. I really feel a convincing Arkansas win. I don't think Illinois has had this great run. They were really seeded high when they started the season and were really in contention for at least in the top 25 conversation. They haven't really been that. They haven't been that version of Illinois, and I really like how Arkansas is kind of riding this. Well, they haven't won their last few. They lost to Texas A&M in their previous game, but I really like what momentum Arkansas is trying to build.
yeah, if you're feeling Arkansas, I'm feeling Arkansas here too. I think that they get the win just based off my gut feeling, and I think if you're feeling that, my gut's telling me that, I think that's got to be a dub. St. Mary's VCU.
Yeah. All right. So this is one of those ones I really kind of go in with. I see the stat lines. I don't love how far apart they look in stature. This is a 4-point spread between the two of them, and it really honestly feels like more of a 1 or 2 point spread in favor of St. Mary's. St. Mary's has had a very decent season, going second in the West Coast, but in their previous game got swamped by number 9 Gonzaga, and it really felt like they got swallowed up and diminished and lost a lot of momentum. That was seriously a 26-point difference in the game. I really felt like St. Mary's had some big momentum going up into the Gonzaga game, but it just
Mhm.
didn't really compile into a game where they felt cohesive as a unit. VCU, on the other hand, is the first in the A10 conference. They swamped on Dayton 68-56, and I really feel like VCU is riding a high of highs right now. They did lose to Arizona State to start the season, but they did beat Pittsburgh. They did lose to Memphis, however. So it's this constant kind of roller coaster of VCU. Did great in their conference, won their conference over, but it seems like when there are some big games, there's a little bit of a challenge. They did beat, however, Kennesaw State, who is now in the tournament as well, did beat Vanderbilt. And I don't really think that this is going to fall far flat in their face. I'm calling VCU for the upset.
we just don't know who's going to show up, and it could be VCU, it could be St. Mary's. I say we ride the underdog here. I don't hate this.
VCU just
UConn,
doesn't. They just don't feel far off. I hate to
yeah,
cut you off. They just the point spread shows that St. Mary's is a much bigger favorite than I really think they are. I like I said, I think this should really be VCU being a 1, 2, 3 point underdog, and I think three for me feels pushing it.
yeah. Well, I mean, it just sounds like any day it could be anybody here with the ups and downs they've had throughout the season that you just talked about. So I don't think that this is a crazy call to go number 12 VCU right here. UConn, Iona.
UConn Iona is going to be a pretty interesting battle until you realize just how dominant that UConn can really be. The one thing that Iona really has going for them is I really looked at their turnovers. I think that they just like to force. I think they also do not turn the ball over a good amount, so it plays into their favor in their hand. But if you just look at UConn, they've been the more dominant team. I think that Iona, while they're on this 14 game winning streak, it's another one of those games, or I'm sorry, another one of those schedules that feels like it's not very strong. The Metro Atlantic Division is not what it really is perceived to be, and Iona seems to be the one team that really comes out of that division pretty handily. I still like Connecticut, despite some being fourth in the Big East, not having as strong of a finish as they want. I still like Connecticut.
I like Connecticut too. You wanna hear my reasoning behind it?
Shoot,
My uncle lives in Connecticut. So I mean, what could go wrong, you know? He lives there. It just seems like how, you know,
it's lining up. It's really lining up for you. So
all the stars are
why not?
aligning. TCU, ASU, NEV.
TCU will have to go on and face the winner of Arizona State and Nevada. Um, I I tend to not look at the strength of the Pac teams, and that's a really silly idea. Or the Mountain West teams, that's a very silly idea. There is some legitimate talent that can come out through Arizona State and Nevada. It it does, however, feel that TCU, while they haven't exactly been the perfect dominant team, I still really like them and whoever they're going to face in Arizona State and Nevada. There are some stats that would tell you that Arizona State and Nevada both have some advantages where I think Arizona State's starting to kind of re-pick up what they had going on, their 3 point shooting. They're getting a little bit of that back. I can't tell you the winner. I personally don't know who's going to win amongst the two of them. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I really like TCU.
So TCU?
We're locking TCU.
Talking TCU. Gonzaga, Grand Canyon.
Yeah, this is it seems like a pretty lofty goal for Grand Canyon to upset Gonzaga. 16 points in the spread both ways. I really don't dislike what Grand Canyon's done, but they're eighth in that Western Atlantic Conference, and I just nothing has really pointed me out to say that they've played a big opponent at least at the start of the November, so you can at least indicate someone who was a big upset. They did win a pretty big scoring game against Utah Tech, and won another one against Abilene Christian, and they totally murdered a small school, Park University Gilbert, totally ruined them.
Yeah.
So you know, I think that there is some stock to what Grand Canyon has done, but it just really feels like Gonzaga are the overtakers in this one.
Does Grand Canyon normally make the tournament?
They have a handful of times. Yep.
I mean, I feel like based off of my no basketball knowledge, it's probably just big enough a deal just to make the tournament for Grand Canyon. As soon as you started talking about Gonzaga, that was the way I was leaning. So I went ahead and locked that one in. I think that's a lock right there.
Well, you know what? We've seen crazier. Wichita State, specifically near the Fred VanVleet time zone when he was at Wichita State. We've
Yeah,
seen crazier, and he rose his draft profile quite a bit in the past. But you know what? I think that we really look for Gonzaga on this one.
agreed. Northwestern, Boise State.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of marks that put Northwestern as the favorite, but Boise State's really not trailing very far behind them. I do Really like what Boise State's
You
been
do?
doing this season, but Northwestern, I'm calling Northwestern.
Yeah, agreed. I feel Northwestern as well. Finally, in the first round, UCLA, UNC Asheville.
Yeah, these two are really interesting. You go from the first conference team in the Pac-12, first conference team in the Big South, although these two conferences are very far apart. UNC Asheville finishing off 27-7. Big win against UCF to start their season off. Literally when they started their season, beating UCF was a big win. But that's really been their one big competition. They did wind up beating High Point by 4 points in a game that was very close. So it's pretty close to home. But I really, really, really feel strongly for UCLA. I think a lot of people are saying that Asheville might be able to claw back, but I think a lot of people are leaning towards UCLA, and I would have to agree with those people. UCLA for me.
Once again, I would like to pick the North Carolina team in state. Go North Carolina, but I like UCLA's jerseys, so let's ride UCLA. Back up to the top, round of 32. Our first matchup is going to be Alabama, West Virginia.
Yeah, it's going to be another close matchup between the two of them. I'm going to call Alabama on that one.
I agree. I think Alabama takes that one. I don't know if they're going to get all the way. I guess we'll have to keep our eye on these matchups, but I agree. I think Alabama takes it over West Virginia. San Diego State, Furman, five and
Well,
three.
in that Southern Conference, Furman is dominant and really, really, really dominant. San Diego State has had a good run of what they've got going on in the last couple games they've played, but Furman is really riding a high of highs, and I think that this is going to lead to far places. I actually think Furman is going to beat San Diego State.
I don't know what it is, but I like Furman too. I think that I know Furman better than San Diego State, so I have a little bit of a connection. I would like to see Furman get through. I'm down for Furman if you want to lock that in.
I'm locking Furman.
Let's lock it in. Here we go. 6-3, Creighton, Baylor. This could be a good matchup.
Yeah, Creighton Baylor has a feel of really like just a very close 1 and 2 seed going at it against each other. It's
Yeah.
it's got that feel to it. These are two notable previous tournament heavyweights. I know you don't love to go to history because it doesn't really apply to this season and this roster. Creighton's had a pretty strong setup of a season, and I really think that follows through. But then you could argue, well, Baylor's had about just about the same. I like Creighton in this. I like Creighton. I like they've been to the stage before. Baylor's also gone on a big run and won it all before. I like Creighton.
Yeah, I don't hate the underdog here as well. I think the next matchup is going to be the obvious choice. So I say we go underdog here, and then we got Utah State, Arizona. I mean, I think I'm leaning towards Arizona here, but do you have anything different?
Yeah, Utah State was a great take over Missouri in what seems to be a very close, compact matchup that I just think the underdog pulls. And it was another feature that just felt like that's a 1 and 2 team playing against each other. I don't think that lasts against Arizona. I think you have two teams from out west that really just don't. I think Arizona really stands out in the crowd amongst others for how strong they played for the competition they've had.
All right, locked in. Arizona, Houston, Iowa.
Houston next.
Fair enough. I agree with that. Here we go. 5-4, Miami, Indiana.
Indiana's close to home just because I've had to watch them twice and beat Michigan twice, and that was obviously unfortunate enough to watch in both games. Um, IU feels very dominant, but then you could completely flip side that and say, well, Miami's had a very, very, very challenging schedule of their own. Miami, just to me, I'm trying to grasp to the one thing that really, really just will set them apart from others, and that I have to go to in their field goal percentage. And their field goal percentage is really, really strong, and that's out of a team that just placed first in the ACC. And I couldn't tell you the last time that I recall Miami winning the ACC out completely. That's a totally foreign concept. I say ride Miami as far as it can go because they just look so strong despite losing their last game.
Well, you said field goal, and we're talking about Miami. The one thing for me that differentiates Miami from all of the other schools out here is the legend Ed Reed. I think we ride Miami for Ed Reed, for the man.
Ray Lewis too.
Locked in Miami. Next
All right.
up, Iowa State. Xavier 6-3. I have a I'm feeling the 3 here. I think it'll be a close game, obviously, but I'm feeling 3. I'm feeling Xavier. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I picked Iowa State with the understanding that they scrape by Mississippi State should they beat Pitt. And should that be the case, I do think that Xavier is the stronger all around team. I don't think Iowa State really poses much of a threat. Could be totally wrong too. Could be on freezing cold takes. I have no idea.
We are locked in. We're just on the same page here. Penn State, Colgate. I'd love to take Colgate here, but
All right, so we called two underdogs that it would be hard. I'd be hard pressed to believe that Colgate really does completely just outwork and out dominate Texas. Totally possible, and to the point where I honestly believe what I'm seeing in terms of how they played and the stats they have against their conference and just really how dominant they were. I don't know how much of a run this can take them to, though. I think Furman is a pretty big reach at 13, getting out of this pretty dominant bracket setup we already have going on. I I just think that Penn State is very hot. They're very trendy, so I got to take them over Colgate.
I think so too. I locked it in a minute ago because we're playing the win here, and I think Penn State is the call. Down to the East, Purdue and Memphis.
Purdue.
Locked. Oral Roberts, Tennessee.
It's going to be a lot closer than people really mark it for. I mean, I think that Oral Roberts has really turned around in a difficult environment to play against, and especially how they did it so what felt like so handily against Ohio State and made a bit of a run for themselves. I do not like comparing this team to Tennessee. I think the Tennessee had a very tough SEC schedule, and they're really looking for a rebound, especially against UL Lafayette and the Raging Cajuns. So I had them winning. I really like what Oral Roberts is doing. I think this continues. I think they also take Tennessee.
I don't want to drink the Oral Roberts Kool-Aid too much and ride Oral Roberts and they mess up our bracket, but we're going to ride Oral Roberts. How can you not? Over Tennessee, over the 4 seed. Number 6, Kentucky, 14, Montana State.
This is another one in Montana State that really felt crazy to pick the underdog on this one, and there were definitely some merit to what Kansas State's been doing. I really like how well Kentucky is run. I think they're a pretty big machine, and getting third in a rather challenging SEC this year is enough stock to get past Montana.
I just can't picture Kentucky not getting past Montana State. I mean, that would be devastating for the program. Locking in Kentucky. Finally, Michigan State, Marquette.
People looking for Michigan State, I think, should probably look elsewhere if they have to play Marquette. That's a super strong #2 dominant team. And I really think that Marquette's holding a lot of stock in a very challenging division where it really felt like there are a lot of people that can put chinks in the armor and take away a first in a conference. Marquette for me.
Agreed. Number 1 against 8. We have a lot of 1-on-8s here. Kansas, Arkansas. Battle of the Kansases. Where are we going here?
Jayhawks. I wouldn't say by a lot. I'm gonna say that this stays within probably 8 points to the final, and it'll probably go that way. I like Kansas stuff.
That was the direction I was feeling as well. VCU, UConn. Once again, my uncle lives
Yeah,
in Connecticut. I am riding UConn. Which direction are you going though?
VCU has real upset potential. The one thing that I'm really looking to is how they played their past schedule. The one thing I didn't like was the Memphis game. I thought they played Memphis really poorly. I thought there was a chance to strike while it was hot. They just really couldn't get it done. And then, still lost to Arizona State, but not in a large fashion. It was within 5 points. So you can't say they're far off from at least knowing. But UConn is a very dominant team when they want to be. And I really think they'll want to be at this stage in time. So I'm calling UConn.
All right. Made that one easy, no debate. TCU, Gonzaga.
I'm calling the Zags in this one.
Okay.
A lot more merit with this program. And while they haven't had the season they love, I'm calling Gonzaga.
That was a direction I was leaning as well. I think that that's going to be a good game, but I agree. Finally, Northwestern, number 2, UCLA. Those jerseys are good
I
looking.
Yeah, I really don't like to pick this one because Northwestern really had this kind of presence and just validity to them that I really like. And despite being losing 11 games, it doesn't really feel like they deserve to be third. Honestly, it feels like they deserve to be second. Or honestly, if it wasn't for Purdue, first in the Big Ten. And big wins against Michigan State. Their only real kind of shocking loss with how it's turned out, and despite having run of their own, was Ohio State. The one thing was their big win at Purdue that really turned me on to them being like, oh wow, they can really go against high end talent. UCLA just seems to be so dominant this year in the Pac-12, making them a number 2. I I I don't like brushing aside Northwestern, and there's a real chance that Northwestern could pull it off if they get to UCLA. I like UCLA, not by much, not by much.
I like UCLA too. I wouldn't hate taking the underdog here, but I say we ride UCLA. Got that locked in.
It's been crazier.
On to the Sweet 16. We got some good matchups here. Alabama, Furman.
We called Furman twice in 2 games that I think that were very hard to win.
Yes.
But Bama is just a different animal and beast this year, despite this kind of the meh end of the season by what they wanted their standards to be. I still think Bama's the number 1 seed for a reason, and I think that they end the run that Furman made.
100%. I agree. I think that's a lock. Creighton still sticking around. Arizona 6-2, 6 seed, 2 seed.
Yeah, Arizona too dominant. I just they possess so much strength. All their facets of their game look amazing to me right now.
What's this logo right here? Is that a
Blue Jay.
Blue Jay? We rode the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays were getting there, but I agree. I think that this is the point where Arizona knocks them out. Houston, Miami, 1-5.
Houston.
The U, yeah. I mean, we're picking all the 1 seeds, but I like these matchups though. Xavier, Penn State, 3-10. That's a little something.
This one is a terrible one to have to pick from. I like both. I really do, and like the presence of both. Xavier is a strong program that's been around in this block for a while. Penn State is a team that's really tried to turn up their level and play level beyond what we've seen in a long time. But Penn State nearly getting to Purdue and what was and felt like a decent back and forth game for most of that game against the Purdue in the Big Ten championship. I don't want to write Penn State off and say, well, we just have to roll with the higher seed, but we have to roll with the higher seed to get to the Final Four in this conference here. You really have to get to there. So you want these Elite 8 level people to be strong, and they are understandably strong. Xavier.
I agree, and I think this is a good pick because we're
Pretty
looking
much
for
though.
but think about this though. We're looking for points. If you look at it, if Texas ends up winning, then Penn State's got to play Texas. So, maybe Texas beats Penn State, and then maybe we still have a chance with Xavier there in the Sweet 16. Little strategy, if you will. The matchup of the ages, Purdue, number 12, Oral Roberts.
I never want to shut the underdog off from what they're doing or what they have been doing, because Oral Roberts, what they've been accomplishing is noteworthy. Purdue is just a juggernaut. They just are. They just are so dominant in many facets. Many teams couldn't touch them, and understandably so.
Oral Roberts will not win the tournament, and they have to go out at some point. And I agree. I think that this is this is the point that they go out, but they do go on a little bit of a run if we have these picks right. Kentucky Marquette.
Marquette. I think that they are stronger, more dominant, tough competition, tough division. I like Marquette.
The number 1 and the number 2 seed. Kansas UConn.
Yeah, I think you're going to have another number one sitting atop. I like Kansas. I can't say UConn is very far off with this turnaround they've been trying to go for. But I still think Kansas is very dominant.
Yeah, I agree. And then finally Gonzaga UCLA. I might
Ooh,
I might
ooh.
go the number 3 seed here. We gotta pick an upset, I feel. I mean, we
We're
don't
picking
have
at
to, but
straws at this point, though. You know what I mean? It's hard to say. I love the UCLA as dominant as they have been. I really, really, really like UCLA here.
yeah, I do too. I mean, they're probably gonna win, but it's unfortunate we got a 1-2, a 1-2 there, 1-2, 1-3. So Alabama, Arizona. What is your pick here?
Bama, not by much. I love this Arizona team. They are super, super, super proficient, but Bama's a juggernaut.
Roll
No,
Tide.
no, 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 no. No, I changed my mind. Arizona.
I say roll Tide. I think Bama takes it.
I like this Arizona team. There's something about them that just feels like tournament winning. But yeah, go for Bama.
You want to rock, paper, scissors? Arizona.
Boom. Arizona.
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 Houston, Xavier.
Houston. Too dominant, man. Too dominant.
Let's see. Purdue, Marquette. Oh, we're gonna end up picking
Oh,
1 seeds.
these are so terrible, these ones and twos. Yeah, I really do like Purdue.
Yeah. Kansas, UCLA.
UCLA, actually.
Yep. That's what I was
Yep, I think they're
feeling.
strong. I think they're dominant.
Pick the number 2 seed. Let's see what we got here. Arizona, Purdue, Houston, UCLA. All right, where are we going with Arizona, Purdue? I
Yeah, it's close. It's close, man. I don't know about you, but I really, really like this Arizona team. I can't say it enough. I can't say it enough. They're a dominant team when they want to be.
You won in rock, paper, scissors. Maybe that is a sign from somewhere that Arizona is going to get something done. We'll go Arizona. Houston, UCLA.
Houston, and I think this game, if they get to each other in Houston, they want to be in their home court. They want to be in that zone. I love Houston at home and just how dominant they've been this season. I'm calling them.
Tiebreaker. Pick the final score.
Yeah, the final score really feels like it's going to be a 73-71 win for Arizona over Houston in the finals.
73-71. I'm going to go 75-78 Arizona.
Okay,
That's the pick.
that's the pick.
Sofa Sports national champion is Arizona. Will the picks be right? We will see. Any thoughts on our little bracket here?
Yeah, I like our picks quite a bit. We did get closer to the final four though. A lot of ones, a lot of twos, a handful of threes, one or two of those. Um, Understandably so though. It really feels like the dominant teams this season have just stayed in their dominant path, and it hasn't really deviated much. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like these upsets don't happen consistently all the time, and people's brackets don't get shot down on day one because it's totally true. I just think if you're going to go off of a decent one that feels like you have the adequate amount of upsets to consistent winners to consistency in division play and consistency in out of division play at the start of the season in November. I really like what we have built. Definitely some discrepancies, though. I am sure and certain that there are some three-seeded, two-seeded team that just might find themselves scrapped at a point in time by a team we didn't expect at all. In fact, I have some the Colgate call, the Furman call, Oral Roberts call, and how long that I had them going tournament. It might be a little bit crazy. I know I have my tournament biases from the past, but I really, really, really like the validity and strength of what we've got going on.
2-1s, 2-2s in the final four, ended up the 1-2 in the championship. I mean, sometimes it's tough to pick the underdog, but I mean, we picked some underdogs though. I think we got some good picks. I'm excited to keep track. We'll let you guys know how this all turns out. Thank you guys for joining us in the first YouTube video for the Sofa Sports podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that. Help us grow the channel. Thank you for joining us.